Hello and welcome back to the eagerly awaited pod, welcomed by your two favourite assassins, not killing people, however, killing our own self-esteem and these reviews.
Jesus.
Been working on that one for possibly about 3 minutes. My name's Ben. We've got Daniel. We'll be reviewing the latest installment of the John Wick franchise. We'll call it a franchise. We'll go with it. It's the fourth one now.
Yep.
If you don't know what films they are, go watch them. But I guess this one pretty much continues, obviously, of the past three. It's essentially just the bounties getting higher and higher and more people are trying to kill him. But it's directed by Chad Stahelski, who's also directed 1, 2, and 3. So, yeah, I mean, other than that, we'll get straight into the review. There's a lot to talk about and a lot to unpack during this film. So, what were your overall thoughts?
First, straight up, I thought this movie was beautiful visually. There were some shots that were like just next level unreal. Like the use of lighting and some of their cinematography were just phenomenal. There was like that they used some camera angles I weren't expecting in this film too, like some throwbacks to nearly like old arcade shooter kind of stuff. And I was like, this is dope. They like actually tried to add something new into it, which is sometimes hard to do in this kind of style of film, which now, because there is a style of film, because we've got 3 of them, it was hard to kind of...
4
no, because we had 3 previously. This is the 4th.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard to be innovative, and I feel like they actually really tried to give that a go. Try to build more of a in-depth story with throwbacks to some things that happened. John Wick in the first 3 films seems like indestructible. In this one, you can see him actually like physically exhausted. There's a lot of like more minute details that I thought were actually increased in this film. In the other one, he's running around with the gun, he's shooting lots of things, no one somehow hit
In the third one, they kind of did it a little bit.
Yeah, but I mean, like, he's getting shot at by 90 blokes and not a single person's hitting him. And then on like this film, there's still some of that because, he's like unreal. But the things that were like majorly different that I noticed, which props for I guess, the directing, is there's a lot more of like covering face with bulletproof jacket. And when he's shooting, he doesn't hold the gun always straight out. A lot of time he holds it up like right in front of his eyes so his jacket's like protect his face too. I'm like, that's dope. That's a cool detail. That's good. I never know how to comment on the acting with this film because it's not always the kind of film that you really go out for acting chops for. But the guy that plays... you've known he plays Pennywise, isn't it? Is that the same
Bill
dude?
Skarsgård, yeah.
Bill Skarsgård, yeah.
Marquise.
There wasn't much, I guess, overall standout acting in this film, but if some props were to go to someone, I thought he gave it his best crack. His role was majorly important within this film without kind of taking the whole film, I guess, the context of it, drawing it into himself. He acted fantastically. Everyone else did exactly what they've probably done in the previous films and did it quite well. But Skarsgård, for me, really stood out in this film. I really enjoyed the audio design, actually, and there was a lot of similarities that I would say put some of that up with Blade Runner, 2049? Is that the latest one? Yeah, there was some scores that were very similar on that. And I'm like, this is pretty dope. This is good.
It's very much like a Neo-electric.
Yeah.
Heavy score,
I was really into this film. If you couldn't tell, thoroughly enjoyed it. That's usually where I start, but I thought I'd chuck that in a little bit closer to the end. This film was good. They tried their best, I think, to try to be innovative and bring something new to this series. We always talk about the 3 Bs, or you do at least, bigger, bolder, better. And I thought they gave that their best crack overall. But look, I really enjoyed the film. I'm sure you'll touch on a little bit more and some more detail. But how did you feel about this film overall? Because I had a blast.
I thought this is the best one by far.
Yeah, cool. I'm going on the same page. Yep.
Not only in terms of the plot, but the actual action itself. One thing I want to give John Wick props for is, as a sequel, a lot of films, whether it be superhero films, action films, a sequel comes out and it usually has nothing to do with its predecessor. Like, you watch a superhero film and it's just all of a sudden a new threat has happened and they don't even remotely bring up what happened in the previous film. It happens a lot. I mean, we saw it in Shazam most recently. Like, it's kind of just almost as if, oh yeah, that happened, you saved the world, now this new... But one thing I got to give props for with John Wick is it really started with one film. A guy killed the dog and it's a revenge bit, and then there's a bounty on the head, and then every film the bounty's just gotten bigger, and there's more guys to. It's basically it's a continuation.
Been very cohesive
overall, which I actually really got to give props to. But in terms of the film itself, it's probably the best action film I've seen since Mad Max Fury Road.
Yeah.
In terms of the action, you touched on it a little bit, but I got to give props to Chad Stahelski, who's obviously directed all three. They've all been beforehand. They've all been great action films, but he's really stepped up a notch here. And you can tell, like, he's obviously had his, how him and Keanu met. He was the stunt coordinator on The Matrix. So he, before he started directing these films, he was the stunt coordinator of a lot of big budget films. And you can definitely tell because he knows how to direct action. Yeah. He knows how to not have hundreds of cuts that we've seen in a lot of action films. He keeps the camera steady, minimal cuts through action sequences, which really comes down to the choreography, which I thought they did a phenomenal job.
Without a doubt, yep.
Everyone's fine in the film. Like, Keanu Reeves isn't a Leonardo DiCaprio type actor. He's very much, he is who he is, but everyone loves him. Everyone was good in the film. I did like the addition of Bill Skarsgård and even Shamir Anderson, who plays the tracker. Or Mr. Nobody.
Oh, yeah, I didn't give him any credit. I thought he was good.
I liked him. I looked at his credits before. He hasn't really been in anything of note, but he was really quite good in this. But there were, it is a very long film. I must admit, I did personally feel like it overstayed its welcome and probably could have been cut down maybe 15, 20 minutes.
Fair.
The only reason I say that is because the action sequences in this film are so ridiculously good. But there's one action sequence, for instance, which takes place in Tokyo, which is honestly a probably 40-minute sequence. So then what happens is when you have it's fantastic and it's unreal. The whole time I was like jaw open. But what's a bit jarring about that is you have a 40-minute action sequence and then it cuts to the next bit and you've got 15 minutes of juxtaposition and slow dialogue, which feels a little jarring in comparison. And it's not like these action sequences are placed here and there. It's like, bang, here's in 40 minutes of action, which you're like, yeah. And then the next 15 minutes is slow and you kind of just takes you out a little bit. That's my only real negative in this film. There are 3 action sequences alone that are worth the price of admission, which I genuinely still sit here, having come out of the film, I do not have any fucking idea how they made it.
No.
First of all, obviously the Tokyo sequence is phenomenal, but as you said, there's a certain scene which starts, and if you go see the film, you will know immediately. But it immediately it's a one-shot tracking shot which comes overhead, and it's like I was dying inside as someone who's been behind the camera making films, and even obviously being this cinephile I am and loving movies. I genuinely am baffled at the amount of level they would have had to go on through to make that. And then obviously there's a stair sequence which also is quite amusing, but really funny. But genuinely balls to the walls action. It's high pay, it's extremely well made, extremely high pace. I don't really have many negatives apart from the fact that, as I said, it was just personally for me a little bit too long. But it was more so that probably comes down to more the editing and what they've left in.
Yep.
Just due to the fact that you've got these high octane sequences where your ass is on the edge of the seat. I won't say that. You're sitting there and you're enjoying it, and then it's just 15 minutes of juxtaposition dialoge, and it's
I can agree that's definitely a bit jarring,
and it did drag a little at points because of that. But other than that, I absolutely loved this film. Probably my favorite by far. I am super excited. I know when we did our more podcast format, when we did our news segments, whether this is the last one or not, I don't know, but I am super excited to see what Chad Stahelski does in the future, because he definitely has the directing chops for action films. He's attached to do the Ghosts of Tsushima movie, which I love the game. For anyone who doesn't know, it's a PlayStation game. He's also directed to do, attached to do Rainbow Six, which is an adaptation of a Rainbow Six game, whether it's
that'd be high action. That'd very John Wick.
But then he's also attached to Highlander, which is the Scottish swordsman, where Henry Cavill's attached to play him. And then you've got
that's a TV series, isn't it?
Yeah, Black Samurai as well, which is also a comic book. He's attached to do 12 things. So if there's more John Wicks, I'd say it might be a different director potentially, purely because I don't know how you're gonna manage all those things. But I'm all for it. I'm super keen to see what Chad does because he's extremely talented with directing action, and it is, as you said, a beautiful looking film. Like the cinematography, even this like the neo noir vibes that you get, like it's very much like almost cyberpunky at times, like with the coloring and the color grading and the score that goes with it. I absolutely love the film. I recommend anyone to go see it. If you like the others, you'll probably love this. But yeah, for me, it is like not even close that this is number one. Like I really enjoyed number one because it's very grounded.
Yep.
And a simple story. It was obviously the first one. It's got that little bit of nostalgia, but this one by far, I don't even think it's close. Like,
Bigger,
tops
bolder, better. It was beautiful
Yeah.
too. I'm going to add a fourth B into that one. This movie is just, it was. I really enjoyed it. I knew what I was setting myself into, and I knew I was going to love it. And I'm glad it stood up to exactly where it was. It was.
Yeah, you don't
it
go
was
in.
great.
You don't go into the plot. You don't go into the film expecting a Oscar-winning plot by any means. You go in to have a good time, to have fun, and it delivers. Like I can't.
I would have loved it if it was longer and it was just action scenes. Like that would be my.
I mean, there probably is. It came out today that there was the first cut, the Chad Stahelski cut, was 3 hours and 50 minutes or so, and then they they watched it and they tested it, and like that it was the president of the company basically just said, yeah, it felt 3 hours and 50 minutes. Like that's his comment. So whether that was action or whether it was a dialogue, who knows? But by all means, please go see this film. I don't think it'll struggle financially whatsoever,
not at
but
all.
I highly recommend it. See it on the biggest screen you can, whether that's IMAX, your local cinema. But other than that, if you have seen it, comment below, let us know what you think, and subscribe for more.
Sounds great. We'll see you in the next video. Thanks, guys.